I see you. Maybe you are sitting there right now, the screen glowing in the half-light, and there's a familiar, hollow ache settling deep in your chest. It's the money ache. It's the sudden knot of anxiety when an unexpected bill lands, or the quiet shame that keeps you from checking your bank balance too closely. We all know that feeling. It's the constant, low-level hum of financial stress that isn't just about the numbers. It's about safety, dignity, and the freedom to breathe. It's the insidious voice whispering that you're playing a game with rules you never learned, destined only to tread water. We measure our worth in dollars, and yet we often feel utterly unworthy of the security we crave. My work, my life's mission, is rooted in the simple, yet profound, conviction that the fight for financial freedom is not fought primarily in the marketplace. It's fought in the mind. You might feel utterly ruined right now. You might look at your debt, your stagnant income, or the impossible climb ahead, and believe you have nothing left. But I have learned that the greatest wealth, the only wealth that truly matters, cannot be taken from you. It resides within your mental framework, your knowledge, your resilience. I want to take us back to 1940s Berlin, a place where ruin was not just financial, but existential. We look to Jacob Goldman. Jacob was a successful Jewish banker, steeped in the world of high finance. He had everything: prestige, a family legacy, and a fortune secured in established institutions. Then the nightmare began. The state, the ultimate creditor, the ultimate thief, confiscated every penny. His life savings, his assets, his very standing in society were reduced to zero. He fled to Switzerland, a refugee with nothing more than the clothes on his back and a few salvaged coins hidden in the lining of his coat. Picture that moment. A man who understood how the world's money flowed, now financially bankrupt. But here is the pivot, the moment that defined his true wealth. Jacob didn't waste time lamenting the loss of the money. He mourned the loss of security, yes, but he immediately activated his most powerful, untaxable asset, his financial intelligence. He understood that wealth is a system, not a balance sheet. From a small room in Zurich, without capital, he began building a clandestine fund, using his deep understanding of international markets and ethical structures to help other desperate refugees secure their remaining assets and flee. He didn't invest in physical commodities. He invested in systems built on trust, discretion, and profound strategic thinking. His method eventually became the quiet inspiration for modern ethical investment principles decades later. What does Jacob's story teach us today? It teaches us that debt, unemployment, or even complete financial collapse are not terminal diagnoses. They are temporary states caused by a failure of strategy or a wound to the mindset. The external structure of your life, your job, your bank account, may feel like it is crumbling, but the internal structure, your knowledge, your capacity to learn, and your beliefs about what is possible remains intact and fully under your control. I know many of you are facing your own modern-day ruin. Crippling student loan debt, the anxiety of job insecurity, or the shame of realizing you are further behind than you thought. This path we are beginning today is not about quick fixes or complicated trading schemes. It is about accessing that unshakable inner asset, the intelligence and self-worth that Jacob tapped into when he had nothing left. We are going to dismantle the emotional wall you have built around your finances and replace it with a fortress of clarity. This journey starts with recognizing the weight you carry. I genuinely want to know, what is your biggest financial pain today? Tell me in the comments below. We're moving forward together, and that process begins now by acknowledging the battlefield. The first step in healing any relationship is acknowledging the dysfunction, and our relationship with money is perhaps the most dysfunctional of all. I call this the state of financial emotional dissonance. This is the place where your external actions, the hustle, the budgeting attempts, the investments you know you should make, are constantly sabotaged by your internal feelings. Think of money not as a tool, but as a mirror reflecting your deepest fears and insecurities. When you look at your bank account, you aren't just seeing numbers. You are seeing judgment, inadequacy, and the measure of your perceived failure. This emotional landscape is where scarcity takes root. Scarcity is not merely the lack of funds. It is a psychological condition. It is the persistent, gnawing fear that there is never enough, and that even if you receive more, it will inevitably be ripped away. This fear creates a vicious loop. When you operate from scarcity, your brain goes into survival mode, focusing obsessively on immediate needs and deficits. This constricts your capacity for long-term strategic thinking, exactly the kind of higher-level planning necessary for true financial mastery. You become reactive, constantly putting out fires instead of building fireproof structures. We impulse spend to momentarily soothe the pain of lack, or we hoard obsessively, equally driven by fear. Both actions keep us trapped. Then there is the crippling weight of financial shame. Shame tells us that our money struggles are a moral failing, a personal character flaw, not a systemic or historical product of poor teaching and limiting beliefs. We hide debt from partners, friends, and sometimes even ourselves. This secrecy isolates us, preventing us from seeking the guidance or accountability necessary for transformation. Shame thrives in silence. It makes you feel like the only person struggling, when in reality, the vast majority of us are dealing with inherited financial trauma and confusing systems. We internalize the societal myth that success is easy for everyone else, which only deepens the feeling of personal inadequacy. We begin to feel guilt not just about lacking money, but often about having it. This brings us to the profound conflict around wealth itself. Many of us are subconsciously terrified of financial success. Why? Because wealth is often unconsciously associated with moral compromise, being a bad person, or abandoning the community we came from. Maybe we witnessed wealthy people in our lives being cruel, or maybe we absorbed cultural narratives that money corrupts. We develop an invisible, self-imposed ceiling, a financial thermostat that forces us to sabotage ourselves whenever we approach a certain level of comfort or success. You might earn a significant bonus, only to immediately have a major unexpected expense wipe it out, or suddenly feel compelled to quit the high-paying job. This isn't coincidence. It's the unconscious mind desperately pulling you back to your familiar, safe zone of just enough or scarcity. The goal of this initial phase is radical validation. I want you to look at these feelings, the fear, the shame, the guilt, the self-sabotage, not as enemies, but as messengers. They are indicators of deeply held, protective programming that needs updating. Recognize that this internal conflict is real, it's understandable, and it is the single greatest obstacle to your financial freedom. You are not inherently bad with money. You are simply operating under faulty, emotional code. Just like Jacob Goldman, when the external world failed him, we must turn inward and understand the landscape of our emotional assets. Until we stop fighting our feelings and start observing them, we cannot begin the essential work of reprogramming. Give yourself permission right now to acknowledge the mess, the fear, and the deeply rooted pain. We normalize this struggle together because the deepest healing starts when we step out of the shadow of shame and into the light of awareness. Now that we have validated the intense emotional conflict, we must move from feeling the pain to understanding its source. This is the critical phase of awareness, where we excavate the origins of your money programming. Your current financial reality is not a reflection of your intelligence or your effort. It is primarily a reflection of the unconscious money narrative you absorbed, largely before the age of 10. Think of your mind as a supercomputer and your childhood environment, your family, your community, your culture, as the operating system installation disk. You are running programs written by other people, using code that is often outdated, buggy, and restrictive. Where did these programs come from? We must look at the financial atmosphere of your childhood. What was the vibration of money in your home? Was it a source of stress, whispered anxieties behind closed doors, or explosive arguments? If money was always associated with tension and conflict, you unconsciously learned that having money means danger, stress, or relational conflict. Consequently, your adult mind might subconsciously reject wealth simply to maintain peace and safety, even if that means living in poverty. Conversely, if money was never discussed, it may have created a sense of mystery or taboo, leaving you feeling entirely unprepared and anxious about managing it as an adult. Consider the specific statements and declarations you heard repeatedly. These are your foundational money scripts. Did you hear, money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are greedy? Or perhaps, we can't afford that, delivered with a sharp tone of finality? These scripts are not just memories. They are active belief triggers. When you consider pursuing a raise or launching a new venture, those old voices echo in the background, subtly limiting your ambition. If your parents struggled tirelessly and equated hard work with suffering, you might now struggle with the belief that money must be obtained through extreme sacrifice and exhaustion, leading you to reject opportunities that seem too easy or enjoyable, simply because they violate your script that money requires pain. Culture and community play a massive role as well. Depending on your background, there may be powerful collective beliefs around debt, generosity, or displaying wealth. In some communities, showing financial success is viewed as showing off, leading to social isolation or jealousy. This fear of being othered can be a powerful brake on financial progress. We are tribal beings, and the fear of social exclusion often overrides our desire for financial freedom. You might subconsciously believe that staying broke keeps you safe and connected to your roots. We must gently pull these hidden contracts into the light. The goal here is not to blame your parents or your environment, but to understand that they were simply passing down their programming based on their trauma and experience. We are creating a psychological distance between the source of the belief and your current identity. You are not those scripts. You are the operator of the computer, capable of deleting old files and installing new, high-functioning software. This deep dive requires intense, non-judgmental observation. I encourage you to begin charting your financial biography. Write down the first 3 things you remember hearing about money. List 3 feelings money evoked in your home. By making the unconscious conscious, we strip away its power to control you. Until we truly understand the legacy of our financial beliefs, every budgeting app and investment strategy will be built on a foundation of sand, destined to collapse when emotional pressure hits. We must recognize that the biggest obstacle in your bank account is actually the story in your mind, and the time has come to rewrite the introduction to that story, starting right now, with ruthless, compassionate awareness. We have identified the emotional conflicts and traced the limiting scripts back to their origins. Now, we move into the crucial phase of cognitive restructuring, actively identifying the core limiting beliefs, the financial myths, and systematically replacing them with empowering, evidence-based truths. These myths are the psychological chains that bind your potential. If awareness is the flashlight, cognitive restructuring is the hammer that breaks the bonds. Myth number 1. Money is scarce, and there is not enough for everyone. This is the zero-sum game mentality. This myth generates envy and competition, causing you to view other people's success as your personal failure. The truth: money is a renewable resource, a measure of value exchange, not a fixed pie. Wealth is created every second through innovation, service, and creativity. When someone else succeeds, it proves the possibility of abundance. Their success is your potential. We must shift from a mindset of competition to one of collaboration and inspiration. Money flows where value is exchanged. Focus on increasing the value you offer, not competing for a limited share. Myth number 2. I am not good with money / I am just bad at numbers. This is the myth of inherent incompetence. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy designed to keep you from engaging with your finances out of fear of confirmation. The truth: financial competence is a skill set, not an inherent talent. Just like learning to drive or cook, it is learned through study, practice, and correction. If you have struggled, it's because you were never taught the fundamentals, not because you are incapable. The moment you decide to learn, you redefine your capacity. You are fully capable of understanding and mastering your finances. Reject the label of bad with money and adopt the identity of a developing financial master. Myth number 3. Wealth requires intense sacrifice and suffering. This myth traps you in the cycle of burnout and rejection of joy. It ties financial success to emotional pain. The truth: sustainable wealth is built on alignment, leverage, and smart systems, not sheer brute force. While effort is required, suffering is optional. When you connect your income streams to your genuine strengths and purpose, the process feels less like torture and more like flow. Efficiency, delegation, and strategic investment are the levers of modern wealth creation, not simply hours worked. You deserve to create wealth joyfully and purposefully. Myth number 4. Money will solve all my emotional problems. This is the myth of external salvation. It leads to relentless chasing of income targets while neglecting true emotional and physical health. The truth: money amplifies who you already are. If you are anxious, wealth will give you more elaborate things to be anxious about. If you are generous, wealth will allow you to be more generous. Money provides comfort and options, but genuine happiness comes from internal work, healthy relationships, and purpose. We must pursue financial health alongside emotional health. Prosperity is holistic. It's about having the resources and the stability to enjoy them. To solidify this shift, we use targeted, growth-oriented affirmations. These are not just feel-good phrases. They are neurological commands designed to override the old scripts. I want you to internalize and repeat these until they feel like your innate truth. I am a powerful creator of wealth and opportunity. I attract financial flow effortlessly because I provide immense value. I deserve true abundance, and my success creates possibilities for others. I manage money wisely, confidently, and strategically. We are using language to reconstruct reality. Remember, every dollar you earn and manage is proof that the old, limiting beliefs are simply lies. We break the myths not with denial, but with evidence and purposeful, confident articulation of your new, prosperous identity. The next step is connecting this powerful internal shift to tangible, actionable habits. Mindset transformation is not a passive activity. It is a discipline reinforced by deliberate, daily action. The greatest danger in the mindset work we are doing is intellectualizing the concepts without embodying them. If Part 3 was about cognitive clarity, Part 4 is about behavioral integration. We are going to build practical habits that serve as physical anchors for your new identity as a financially empowered individual. These are small, powerful steps designed to rewire your neural pathways and bridge the gap between internal belief and external outcome. The first essential action is cultivating financial gratitude. Gratitude shifts the brain from a scarcity focus, what I lack, to an abundance focus, what I have. This is not about denying your debts. It is about recognizing the resources already available to you. Every time you turn on a light, drink clean water, or use a functioning phone, you are benefiting from immense infrastructure and wealth. I challenge you to start a daily practice of writing down 3 specific things you are grateful for related to money or resources. It could be the $5 in your wallet, the roof over your head, or the intellectual capital you possess. This practice retrains your mind to recognize abundance, making you a magnet for more of it. Abundance attracts abundance. Next, implement the discipline of financial journaling. This is distinct from budgeting. It is emotional tracking. We need to stop avoiding our financial reality. For just 5 minutes each day, sit down and review your balances, your recent transactions, and, most importantly, journal your emotional reaction to those numbers. If you feel anxiety, write it down. I felt a tightness in my stomach when I looked at my credit card balance. The goal is not to fix the number, but to observe the emotion without judgment. This practice breaks the taboo of money, diminishes the power of shame, and creates emotional mastery. By observing your emotional triggers, you gain the power to choose your response rather than automatically reacting with fear or denial. Third, engage in purposeful visualization. This is a powerful neuroscientific tool. Your brain struggles to differentiate between a vividly imagined event and a real event. Use this to your advantage. Spend 10 minutes visualizing yourself as the financially successful person you are becoming. Don't just visualize a large bank account. Visualize the behavior and feeling of that person. See yourself confidently reviewing a financial report, making a strategic investment decision, or giving generously without hesitation. Feel the sense of ease, dignity, and mastery. When you visualize, you are literally creating and strengthening the neural pathways required for those future actions. When a real opportunity arises, your brain will recognize the pathways, making the confident decision feel familiar and natural rather than scary and new. Finally, connect your mindset shift with small, practical habits of management. If you feel overwhelmed by the complexity of money, start with the simplest action: name every dollar. Give your money purpose before you spend it. This could mean setting up 3 distinct savings buckets and labeling them clearly, e.g., Future Freedom Fund, Adventure Travel, Taxes. When you give a dollar a job, You shift from feeling like money is something that happens to you to something you actively direct. These small, consistent steps of accountability build profound financial muscle. By grounding your new, abundant mindset in these deliberate, daily actions, gratitude, emotional journaling, powerful visualization, and purposeful allocation, we ensure that the internal transformation translates into undeniable, positive external results. We have moved through awareness, restructuring, and habit formation. Now, we arrive at the apex of transformation, claiming your new financial identity. This is the moment where we stop trying to get money and start focusing on becoming the person who attracts and manages wealth effortlessly. Financial self-mastery is fundamentally an identity shift. You must shed the old skin of the struggler and fully step into the power of the financial architect. The critical realization here is that prosperity is tied to purpose, ethics, and emotional maturity. The most common pitfall for those beginning to attract wealth is relying on the old scarcity mindset to manage the new abundance. If you still believe deep down that rich people are corrupt or that money will ruin you, you will manage your new wealth reactively, often leading to poor decisions, impulsive spending, or self-sabotage to return to this safe level of scarcity. True empowerment means adopting the ethical and emotional discipline required to handle significant resources responsibly. I want you to consciously design your identity as a wealth custodian. Ask yourself, how does a financially masterful person behave? They do not panic, they strategize. They do not avoid their statements, they review them confidently. They do not spend out of emotional reaction, they invest according to purpose. They understand that money is energy, it must flow. It must be generated, conserved, and then purposefully circulated to create more value in the world. When you view money through the lens of purpose, it loses its emotional grip and becomes a powerful tool for impact. Tie your desire for prosperity directly to your core values. Why do you want abundance? Is it to create stability for your family, fund innovative projects, support causes you believe in, or simply free up your time to fulfill your unique life mission? When prosperity is connected to something larger than consumption, when it is connected to a purposeful contribution, it grounds your motivation and reinforces ethical management. This is the principle Jacob Goldman embodied. His knowledge was used not for selfish gain, but to create a mechanism of rescue and security for others. That alignment of wealth and purpose gives money gravity and moral direction. Emotional maturity in this context means accepting full responsibility for your financial outcomes, without blame or excessive self-criticism. It means recognizing that mistakes are merely data points, not reflections of your worth. A financially mature person views a temporary setback not as failure, but as tuition paid for a valuable lesson. This identity recognizes that financial mastery is a continuous evolutionary process, not a destination. We are not just chasing a number, we are building emotional resilience. A truly abundant person is resilient because they understand that their true asset is their mindset and knowledge, the unconfiscatable wealth, just like Jacob's. If they lost everything tomorrow, they know they possess the internal tools and intelligence to rebuild it, because they are the architect, not the victim, of their circumstance. Step into this new identity fully. Start making decisions today, right now, not from the anxiety of the struggler, but from the confidence and strategic clarity of the financial architect. This new self-concept is the key that unlocks sustainable, expansive abundance. We have traversed the entire landscape of financial transformation, moving from shame to identity. Now, we commit to solidifying this shift through continuous, intentional reprogramming. The old scripts are deeply ingrained, and they will attempt to resurface, especially during moments of stress or success. Our final phase is about building a psychological maintenance system, a lifelong commitment to emotional and financial alignment. The core of this commitment is the daily habit of self-talk and reinforcement. We must continuously overwrite the outdated files. I want you to create a personalized financial mantra, one that incorporates the truths you discovered and the identity you claimed. This mantra should be recited daily, preferably in the morning and evening, reinforcing the new reality. It might sound like this: I am financially secure, emotionally mature, and my abundance creates a positive ripple effect in the world. Repeat it until the subconscious mind accepts it as truth. This isn't magic. It's neuroplasticity in action, training your brain to fire new, prosperous pathways. Next, implement the concept of the financial integrity check. Every time you are about to make a significant financial decision, a major purchase, a new investment, or a career change, pause and run it through a two-part filter. First, is this decision in alignment with the values and purpose of my new identity as a financial master? Does it move me toward my long-term vision? Second, am I making this decision from a place of fear, scarcity, or a place of confidence and strategy, abundance? If the answer to the second question is fear, halt the action. Revisit your mantra, recalibrate your emotional state, and only proceed once you feel grounded and strategic. This check prevents impulsive, fear-driven choices that undermine your progress. Our journey concludes with a powerful, guided visualization, a final, immersive reprogramming session. I invite you now to close your eyes, take 3 deep, slow breaths, and allow your body to relax completely. Release the tension in your shoulders and your jaw. Now, visualize the space you occupy when you feel complete and total financial freedom. It is not just a number in the bank. It is a feeling of deep peace. See yourself sitting at a spacious, uncluttered desk. You are reviewing your finances, not with dread, but with serene confidence. You see the investments growing, the debt receding, and the resources flowing effortlessly to you. Feel the weight lift off your chest. This is not luck. This is the result of your discipline, your wisdom, and your commitment to valuing yourself. Now, see the ripple effect. Visualize how your abundance allows you to contribute to your community, support your loved ones, and dedicate time to your true purpose. You are not just wealthy. You are a channel for good. You are a source of stability. Hold this image, this feeling of quiet, powerful mastery. This reality is not a dream. It is the inevitable destination of the intentional work you have started today. You are the modern-day Jacob Goldman. You possess the internal, unconfiscatable assets of knowledge, resilience, and wisdom. The past is only a lesson. The future is an open canvas. I ask you to commit right now to this journey of financial evolution. Commit to showing up every day, not just for the numbers, but for the profound respect and self-worth that financial self-mastery provides. This is your life. This is your abundance. Go claim it. My personal evolution in this arena required a startling realization. True wealth isn't generated linearly by effort, but exponentially by leverage. For years, I mistakenly thought that controlling every minute detail of my investments equated to assured safety. Then, I met an elderly textile executive, Mr. Alastair, during a quiet lunch on the edge of the city. He shared a fundamental principle that transformed my approach entirely. The great conductors don't play every instrument. They orchestrate the talent. We must move beyond being the solo violinist, striving for perfection in every transaction, and assume the role of the conductor of our own capital. This particular shift demands a radical restructuring of our relationship with both time and external expertise, recognizing that the highest return on energy is found in high-level strategy and system design, not in incessant activity. Developing this concept further means transitioning towards sophisticated, automated structures that operate independently of our daily labor. Consider the distinct difference between a single pipeline and a comprehensive, interconnected network. A single pipeline requires constant vigilance and direct intervention. Conversely, a financial network has built-in redundancies, automated feedback loops, and strategically placed controls. Individuals who achieve durable, generational prosperity design their personal economies to deliberately minimize reaction time to market noise and maximize clarity for high-leverage, strategic focus. Our sustained internal transformation, which we have carefully cultivated, grants us the mental composure to build these intricate external frameworks, robust systems for investment allocation, tax optimization, and perpetual learning that effectively protect and proliferate assets even during periods where our attention is focused on purpose or family. A deeper understanding of ethical scaling reveals that, for those who have embraced the identity of the ethical steward, growth isn't simply about aggressive acquisition. It's about amplifying positive influence. The core question shifts profoundly from how much can I personally amass, to how many resources can I effectively circulate to support meaningful endeavors and community uplift. At one point, I helped mentor a young inventor named Elias, who was temporarily paralyzed by the sheer volume and speed of his early business success. He literally viewed rapidly accumulating profit as a suffocating burden of responsibility. We collaboratively worked to establish a defined philanthropic structure integrated directly into his business model, rather than attempting to bolt it on as an afterthought. It was astonishing to observe how Elias's profound anxiety immediately evaporated once his capital ceased being solely his in an isolated sense, and instead became a dynamic, ethical engine for innovation and community support. This holistic integration of purpose and profit is absolutely crucial for maintaining psychological alignment during periods of exponential growth. Furthermore, building vast, durable systems inevitably involves embracing intelligent risk, not the rash, emotional exposure driven by greed, but rather calculated exposure meticulously based on studied probability and deep understanding. Earlier discussions focused on avoiding fear-based reactive spending. Now, however, we must consider how this translates to facing large-scale, strategic investment decisions. Successfully navigating these moments requires a unique mental agility to cleanly detach the investment outcome from one's personal identity or self-worth. If a studied investment underperforms, the financial architect doesn't crumble emotionally. Instead, they clinically analyze the structural flaw, extract the data, and quickly redesign the system. I have consciously cultivated an almost clinical detachment during periods of pronounced market volatility. It is the steady ability to maintain an unwavering hand on the strategic rudder, even when the financial environment appears completely overwhelming, recognizing inherently the cyclical nature of correction and the emergent opportunity that always follows. This is the subtle difference between gambling and mastery. Sustaining the profound shift we have enacted demands more than mere good intentions. It requires the installation of an anti-fragile system designed to grow stronger precisely when external pressures mount. Initial excitement can propel us forward, yet I've witnessed countless individuals, following periods of significant financial achievement, succumb to the inevitable drift effect. Take the case of Lena, for instance. She transformed her business model and saw her income quintuple in 18 months. However, when a sudden market downturn hit, the primal, deep-seated fear of ruin resurfaced. Despite having accumulated substantial reserves, the feeling of threat overwhelmed the fact of her security, leading her to make reactive, low-yield maneuvers that sabotaged her strategic positioning. Lena's failure was not one of intelligence, but of structured commitment. We cannot rely on calm emotional states to dictate decisions during a crisis. Consequently, the final layer of this transformation involves crafting what I call a personal financial constitution. This is a formalized, written document detailing your non-negotiable principles concerning capital allocation, acceptable risk tolerance, and, critically, specific predetermined actions to be taken during periods of high stress or perceived market collapse. Unlike a simple resolution, this constitution is a contract with your future self, drafted when your mind is clear, strategic, and abundant. It dictates behavior under duress, ensuring that the panicked self cannot override the wisdom of the prepared self. Building on this, the mechanism for activating this constitution is through the discipline of asynchronous review. We schedule dedicated time, ideally once per quarter, to review this governing document and our current financial architecture. During this reflective period, we intentionally adopt a detached, high-altitude perspective. I want us to look at our asset deployment not as the anxious owner, but as an external, clinical financial advisor examining a client's portfolio. We assess whether the systems still align with the high-level purpose we established earlier, making necessary adjustments with cool objectivity. This systematic detachment prevents the confluence of money and ego, ensuring that evolution is driven by logic and leverage, rather than the impulsive need to fix or win. Furthermore, our commitment extends into the realm of intellectual capital in perpetuity. The foundational intelligence that enabled Jacob Goldman to rebuild his empire is your most durable, non-depreciating asset. To honor and protect it, We must embrace the duty of continuous, sophisticated learning. I encourage looking at new economic data, shifts in global trade, or disruptive technological developments not as overwhelming noise, but as essential updates to your internal cartography. Every piece of new knowledge is a refinement of your map to the world of opportunity. The successful deployment of capital relies less on timing and more on depth of understanding. This commitment to perpetual knowledge acquisition guarantees that even if external circumstances change radically, your capacity for wealth creation remains unassailable and continuously evolving. This sustained focus on knowledge ensures your prosperity endures, becoming a quiet, resilient force that flows across generations. I have seen a subtle yet devastating form of collapse afflict individuals who have mastered the art of accumulation. It is what I term prosperity exhaustion. The gnawing burnout that emerges after the fight to get rich is technically one, characterized by an overwhelming sense of operational fatigue. Managing substantial abundance, I discovered, demands a different type of sustained stamina than fighting against initial lack. Many successfully climb the mountain only to be paralyzed by the endless, complex logistical effort of staying at the summit. The highest-performing athletes meticulously manage their energy expenditure. Likewise, achieving genuine mastery over your expanded capital compels an acute focus on conserving what neuroscientists call decision energy. I worked with Marcus, a truly brilliant tech entrepreneur, whose intricate global investment schemes yielded fantastic returns. Yet, he was chronically irritable, drowning in administrative minutiae. He tried to manually reconcile every tiny expense, fixated on achieving operational perfection rather than strategic elevation. His relentless pursuit of control over negligible details depleted the very mental fuel needed for high-leverage decision-making. Consequently, we architected what I now refer to as cognitive containment systems. This involved radically delegating every decision point below a certain predefined financial threshold, from hiring specialized accounting teams to automate complex tax structures, to selecting a financial concierge for personal logistics. Marcus learned to intentionally wall off designated zones in his life, where minor choices were simply irrelevant to his direct involvement. His mental resources were thereby preserved exclusively for the weighty considerations, where to allocate the next 100 million, or how to deepen the ethical mission of his enterprise. The immediate effect was transformative. By refusing to engage in low-value choices, Marcus reclaimed the mental bandwidth necessary to think in terms of decades and global impact, rather than just quarters and balance sheets. This practice underscores a vital truth. Abundance is sustained not by working harder or controlling everything, but by ruthlessly defining and eliminating points of cognitive friction. Success at this elevated stratum demands that our mental focus remains pristine, acting as a clear lens through which grand strategy is perpetually refined. Another crucial layer is understanding that increased complexity frequently masks unforeseen fragility. The truly enduring system is always one built upon simplified, highly leveraged principles, protected by robust professional firewalls. We evolve beyond merely seeking to make money toward deliberately designing a lifestyle where prosperity is inherently self-sustaining, supported by external structures that ensure our most valuable commodity, our focused, high-level attention, is never depleted in the service of the mundane. This intentional restructuring shifts the burden of management from our shoulders to our systems, guaranteeing that we remain the visionary architects, never merely the overwhelmed administrators. This is how sustained freedom is actually purchased. I noticed, during years spent guiding high-net-worth individuals, a subtle yet profound sabotage mechanism: the inability to comfortably receive the fruits of one's labor. It's the final, unexpected hurdle, a psychological allergic reaction to sustained serenity. After the intense struggle to achieve abundance, the mind often resists the resulting peace, subconsciously manufacturing crises to return to the familiar, chaotic state of fighting. I recall the strange case of Clara, who, after successfully selling her company, immediately embarked on a series of unnecessary, high-stakes real estate flips, risking capital she didn't need to risk. Her true task wasn't managing her portfolio. It was training her nervous system to remain calm at high altitude. She needed to learn that safety resided in her sustained clarity, not in the adrenaline of the chase. Consequently, maintaining this elevated state necessitates external scaffolding. I urge every person committed to financial mastery to institute what I call their economic cabinet. This is an informal, trusted group, perhaps an accountability partner, a specialized attorney, and a deeply ethical wealth advisor, who collectively serve as your objective external reality check. Isolation is the greatest enemy of the affluent. The fear of being misunderstood or envied often leads to internalizing critical decisions, which breeds blind spots. We must actively solicit unbiased, strategic feedback, allowing this cabinet to challenge our assumptions and verify our decisions against the principles outlined in our personal commitment documents. Their role is to provide the firm grounding that prevents the successful self from drifting into arrogance or unnecessary complexity. Further refinement of our commitment involves recognizing the supreme fungibility of time. Many high achievers remain unconsciously trapped by the scarcity mindset regarding their minutes, feeling compelled to personally handle every logistical detail. I encourage the execution of rigorous time value audits, a meticulous analysis of every scheduled activity against its net strategic return. If an activity consumes 2 hours of my focus but yields only a marginal monetary or emotional benefit, it represents a catastrophic mismanagement of my most precious, non-renewable asset. Mastery means deliberately offloading low-leverage tasks, the endless email sorting, the administrative chores, the domestic coordination, to reclaim the hours necessary for deep strategic thought or restorative engagement with family and purpose. The goal here is the ruthless preservation of mental bandwidth for actions that move the needle. Crucially, we must establish physical and environmental anchors for our sustained prosperity mindset. The energy of our surroundings reinforces or undermines our inner state. I found that creating a defined command center, a dedicated, quiet physical space where all financial review, strategic planning, and learning occurs, dramatically enhanced focus and reduced emotional volatility. This space is consecrated for abundance thinking. It is a clutter-free zone where scarcity narratives are strictly prohibited. The act of sitting in this intentional environment acts as a behavioral cue, instantly signaling to the brain that it is time for high-level, strategic operation. It eliminates the friction of transitioning from casual chaos to focused creation. Finally, we acknowledge the inevitability of human imperfection. There will be regression days, days when fear whispers, when the old shame surfaces, or when an emotional purchase is made out of pure reaction. To prevent a momentary slip from becoming a systemic collapse, we implement the 24-hour rule. If I experience a significant lapse in strategic thinking or emotional control related to money, I give myself exactly 1 day, 24 hours, to process the disappointment, extract the lesson learned, and engage in full emotional debriefing. After that period, the analysis ceases, and the strategic protocol immediately resumes. There is no dwelling, no wallowing in guilt. There is only a structured, time-limited correction, ensuring that one isolated misstep does not undermine the long-term, anti-fragile architecture we have so painstakingly constructed. This is how true, lasting commitment is fortified against the unpredictable human heart. I spent years observing what happens after the victory is secured. A unique form of inherited anxiety often plagues the second generation, even among those who receive massive liquidity. This is not simply a fear of mismanagement. It is the profound psychological displacement that occurs when immense resources are received without the preceding crucible of earning them. The subsequent generation inherits the harvest without having planted the seed, leaving a devastating vacuum of self-worth and genuine understanding of the capital's ethical weight. Consider the story of David, whose father, a titan of industry, provided immense material comfort but never transmitted the philosophy of creation. David received the fortune, yet he was utterly bankrupt in self-regard. I saw him struggling, drowning in options, constantly fearful that he was inadequate to manage the responsibility, viewing the inheritance less as an opportunity and more as a judgment of his inherent capability. This unearned burden became a silent destroyer of his peace. He subconsciously yearned for struggle, attempting to replicate the proving ground his father experienced. often leading to self-sabotage and reckless ventures designed to lose the money just to gain back the feeling of earned mastery. Consequently, my work with David evolved into creating something far more vital than a mere trust document: a mental will. This instrument wasn't concerned with asset division. Instead, it was a detailed articulation of the ethical principles, the hard-won lessons learned from every major failure, and the strategic rationale behind the family's wealth architecture. I urged him to document why his money existed, its purpose, and its origin story, not simply where it was allocated. This practice forced David's father to integrate his own history of struggle and achievement into a teachable narrative, transforming raw capital into crystallized wisdom. Furthermore, for David to fully integrate his new role as a steward, we established the practice of conscious witnessing. This is a scheduled time for quiet observation. It required him to sit and observe the money at work, not to interfere or analyze the performance, but to simply witness the yield and the purposeful circulation of the capital. We observed investment returns funding scholarships and supporting regenerative agriculture projects, creating a visceral, moral connection to the capital that bypassed the numerical anxiety. Another crucial layer involves confronting the subtle cultural narrative that equates genuine enjoyment of wealth with moral laxity. Many individuals, especially those from backgrounds prioritizing austerity, unconsciously feel compelled to suffer in proportion to their success. We had to work diligently to decouple achievement from emotional pain. This required David to invest intentionally in experiences that enriched his life and solidified his sense of dignity, seeing these expenditures as essential investments in his focus and mental clarity, rather than indulgent wastes. This subtle, repetitive witnessing broke the destructive mental association of wealth with stress and guilt, replacing it with an energy of alignment and purposeful flow. Our ultimate goal is to ensure that our financial trajectory isn't just about personal accumulation, but about the elegant and conscious transfer of the confidence required to wield that expanded power ethically. The truest measure of enduring success lies not in our own lifespan's balance sheet, but in the psychological robustness and preparedness we bestow upon the next generation, guaranteeing that their inheritance is a blessing, not a burden. Reflecting on this profound journey we've shared, I realize we began in a landscape shrouded by a perpetual emotional fog. Our vision was blurred by old echoes, the scarcity chants of childhood, and the debilitating hum of internal friction. I saw many of you standing paralyzed at the threshold of possibility, holding financial maps drawn by ancestors who quit generations ago. The primary struggle, we discovered, was never the market's volatility, but the unacknowledged, cyclical turmoil within the command center of the self. The dedicated work we performed was never merely about balancing ledgers or optimizing trades. It was a rigorous, systemic reconstruction, a meticulous effort to mend the broken compass that dictated your financial orientation. We understood that attempting to scale a rickety structure, built upon foundations of inherited anxiety, was an exercise in futility. Instead, we focused our energy beneath the visible surface, stabilizing the psychological bedrock and securing the true, unconfiscatable assets of clarity and strategic resolve. The work wasn't about adding complex gears. It was about deliberately cleaning and calibrating the mainspring of your internal mechanism. We systematically removed the grit of shame and the rust of emotional avoidance, allowing the intrinsic brilliance of the clockwork, your genuine capacity for creation, to finally align. The numbers in your accounts were never the core problem. They were simply the inaccurate output of a chronically miscalibrated system. Now, the internal tempo is controlled, the gears mesh smoothly, and the ticking is steady, driven by purpose rather than panic. We moved past relying on fleeting motivation and the adrenaline spike of the chase. We forged an ironclad commitment, a written doctrine, our own personal constitution, designed not just to acquire resources, but to ensure the sustained integrity of our decision-making process. This distinction is crucial. We didn't simply accumulate reserves. We installed the necessary psychological firewalls, the deliberate moments of stillness, the asynchronous review, that guarantee the wisdom of our clear, strategic self will govern the actions of our stressed self. This proactive, anti-fragile structure ensures that even when the outside world shifts violently, Our core architecture doesn't fracture. It adapts, absorbs the pressure, and gains definitive strength from the turbulence. Looking out now, the perspective from this elevated vantage point is markedly different. The obsessive focus on mere personal acquisition fades into the background, replaced by a profound appreciation for circulation, leverage, and impact. Our prosperity has ceased being a narrow pursuit of self-salvation and has transformed into a deliberate force of ethical elevation, a strategic deployment of resources aligned with a purposeful trajectory. We are not simply solvent. We are powerfully, resiliently commanded. Our most valuable asset is not the capital we possess, but the quiet, unshakable certainty that we know exactly how to wield it, ensuring every resource serves a meaningful end. We stand ready, masters of our own emotional and economic destiny, prepared for the ultimate step in claiming our full authority. The journey we undertook together wasn't simply a path toward solvency. It was an expedition into the depths of self-sovereignty. When I look back at the beginning of our conversation, the collective sigh of anxiety, the heavy weight of inherited scarcity, I see now that the true objective was never to chase currency. It was to reclaim our emotional ownership over the entire process of living. We were not merely seeking to acquire assets. We were striving to become the kind of human being to whom abundance is the natural state of being. I recall a conversation I had long ago with a mentor who distilled the essence of wealth building into a single, crystalline truth. He wasn't talking about spreadsheets or market timing. He was talking about existential posture. Most people, he told me, live their lives defending themselves against hypothetical future ruin. They spend all their energy preparing for what might be lost. The master, however, lives entirely in the domain of creation. This profound shift in orientation, moving from a defensive crouch to an open stance of creation, is the ultimate marker of our transformation. We have now reached a point where the fear of losing money is subordinate to the strategic excitement of directing it. We have cemented the understanding that the most devastating loss is never monetary. It is the loss of intellectual capacity, the erosion of belief in one's ability to rebuild. We have seen, through the lens of Jacob Goldman's historical crucible, that financial ruin does not mean personal ruin, provided the architecture of knowledge remains intact. That intelligence, honed by experience and anchored by ethical purpose, is the ultimate, unconfiscatable asset that appreciates endlessly. So, where does our work leave us today? It leaves us with a quiet, profound realization. True financial mastery is the art of eliminating urgency. When we operated from scarcity, every decision felt like a five-alarm fire. Every potential investment was fraught with the tension of last-ditch effort. Now, having systematically decoupled our self-worth from our net worth, and having built robust systems governed by clear, predefined principles, we can afford the luxury of patience. We operate from a deep well of strategic stillness. I invite you to step fully into this quiet confidence. Recognize that the most powerful move you can make today, tomorrow, and every day after is to choose the path of least emotional resistance, the one guided by clarity, patience, and premeditated strategy. Your wealth is no longer a volatile, external variable. It is a stable, intentional extension of your highest values. This is not the end of the journey. It is the moment you take the helm of a ship perfectly suited for the deepest oceans and the highest tides. May your ongoing journey be marked by profound wisdom, deep connection, and the boundless satisfaction that comes from mastering the beautiful, powerful energy of money. Go forth, create value, and steward your resources with the dignity you have earned. This is the promise of enduring abundance, realized not by chance, but by conscious design.